On the night of the new moon, silence in Jakhol village was broken by a scream. Atul opened his front door, only to find a decaying, veiled woman on the threshold. Before he could retreat, her decaying hands tightly locked onto his shoulders, and he was violently dragged into the thick fog. His friends, Aryan and Pooja, could only watch as the mist swallowed him whole. No one stepped out to help. No one reached for a weapon. They reached for their door bolts. They sat in the pitch black, listening to a neighbor die, while ensuring their own windows were shut completely tight. By morning, the terror had shifted into a search for a scapegoat. Atul's body rested in the square, but the village head didn't speak of the entity. He looked at Aryan, blaming him for bringing a friend to Jakhol in the first place. In his eyes, the death was a guest's mistake, not a failure of the community. Aryan realized if he waited for the village to act, the cycle would repeat next month. While the others looked away, he chose to investigate the source of the haunting, a 50-year-old story that the elders refused to acknowledge even as it claimed their children. This wasn't a sudden outbreak of bad luck. Jakhol developed a habit of survival through silence, creating a space where a predator could operate because no one was willing to speak up. Searching for the truth took Aryan and Pooja away from the village and into a sprawling, ancient cremation ground. Under the shadow of a dead tree sat an Aghori, his skin coated in the gray ash of the pyres. He was the only one who didn't fear the history the village tried to bury. This timeline tracks the path of the deaths. Each node represents one of the victims of the last 5 decades, all branching out from a single point of origin 50 years ago. The pattern shows the entity isn't choosing targets at random. She is working through a list of the village's descendants. The Aghori identified the woman as Leelavati. Long ago, she was the wife of the local leader, known for using her resources to support the struggling families of Jakhol. She was a protector for a community that would eventually betray her. The conflict began when her husband, Taku Ratan Singh, grew suspicious of her charity. He focused his rage on a young gardener named Pawan, whom Leelavati was helping. Singh didn't seek the truth. He manufactured a story of infidelity to justify reclaiming total control over his household. The haunting began with this specific abuse of power. Singh chose to destroy his wife's reputation as a way to isolate her, turning her kindness into a weapon to be used against her character. Singh gave Leelavati one chance to stay. He cast her out into the night and told her that if she could find a single villager to testify to her innocence, he would let her return. It was a test of the very loyalty she had spent years building for her charity. Leelavati spent the night knocking on doors. She went to the homes of people she had fed and helped, but the talkers' threats had already reached them. Door after door remained shut. The village she had cared for chose the safety of their silence over the life of their benefactor. Exhausted and abandoned, she wandered into the forest. In the pitch black, she lost her footing and slipped into the dark, stagnant water of an ancient well. She drowned alone, surrounded by the woods, with the sounds of a village that had turned its back on her. Grief and betrayal prevented her spirit from moving on. The trauma of being discarded by the people she served warped her presence, turning her into a vengeful entity that saw the entire village as complicit in her death. The haunting is the cost of that 50-year-old silence. The ghost didn't arrive from the outside. She was created by a community that decided it was easier to let an innocent woman die than to stand up to a bully. To stop the entity, the Aghori explained that Aryan would have to act with the courage the previous generation lacked. He handed him a pouch of cremation ash, which would serve as the bridge to confront a spirit born of abandonment. Aryan and Pooja tracked the source to the ancient well. Without hesitation, Aryan dove into the water, descending into the cold dark where Leelavati had spent 50 years. He reached the bottom just as the veiled figure emerged, her rage directed at the first person to enter her domain in decades. Aryan didn't fight her. He swam forward and pressed the ash to her forehead. The contact broke the hold her rage had on the world, allowing Leelavati's spirit to finally dissipate into the water. The pressure that had sat over Jakhol for 50 years finally vanished. When Aryan surfaced, the village was quiet for a different reason. The news of the shattered curse spread quickly, and the people who had spent their lives hiding now gathered to thank the man who had done what they were too afraid to try. But Aryan didn't stay to celebrate. He saw that while the ghost was gone, the culture of the village hadn't changed. They were still a people who waited for others to solve their problems. He took Pooja and left Jakhol for good, realizing that the only way to truly survive a community that thrives on silence is to leave it behind.